Hey homeschoolers, I'm Melissa Webb, former full-time classroom teacher and homeschool mom turned full-time business CEO. Yes, I want to give you sound, educational, practical tips and advice, at the same time making sure that you're enjoying the family journey that you are on. So if you are looking for a place to be encouraged and inspired, you have found the perfect podcast. Homeschooling is a work of heart is truly the perfect place to start. So welcome. Let's jump in. Well, hello and welcome back. I hope all of you are doing absolutely fantastic. I am as well. Recently, I spoke at a homeschooling event in Brea. And I will say the audience of these homeschooling parents may have very well been the best group ever. They were so attentive and engaged and encouraging. And they were also very transparent about their struggles. There were a few conversations that continued after my presentation. And one mom had said that, homeschooling has not been fun. And she continued on and told me her list of struggles, to which, of course, I was very empathetic and sympathetic and encouraging. And I shared some ideas that she might want to consider. But since that moment, I wish that I could go even deeper with her. My goal is always to be as helpful as possible. And the very first thing that I would start with would be that thought of hers, the one that said homeschooling is not fun. I would want to ask, is it really true? I'm sure she has evidence that homeschooling is not fun. She shared some of it that day. And I bet if I asked her, and have all the days not been fun, she also probably would have said, well, sure, there was this fun day or this fun activity. Not every day has been terrible. But isn't it fascinating? Our brains are far less interested in the positive things happening in our lives, and instead they want to grab on to the negative things happening. And it's understandable why. Our brain is always protecting us, always wanting to fix what's wrong. So there is nothing wrong with having those negative thoughts. It's very human. And we also need to pay closer attention, because those are primitive brain tendencies. And we have our primitive brain, but we also, as human beings, have the prefrontal cortex, and that allows us to go deeper, think deeper, and to take all of our thoughts captive, which we really need to do. Because the fact is, homeschooling is not fun, is not true or false. Sometimes it maybe feels true, but here's the thing, it's not true all the time. It is simply a thought. So when I go back to 2017, I was introduced to a woman by the name of Brooke Castillo. She actually majored in psychology in college, and she didn't like that all she studied was mental unwellness. And she wanted to know more about, okay, got it. There are all these things that can go wrong with the mind, but what if we already have a pretty healthy mind and we want to advance our thinking, advance our lives? And she, after doing lots of study and reading, came up with what she calls the model. It's Psychology 101, but the way that she explained it changed my life for the better. So be sure to check out any of her books, definitely her podcast. I'll link to it for you. But if this stuff interests you, I definitely would push you into studying her and how she teaches. I think she's phenomenal. And she had pointed out that all of our thoughts are powerful little buggers. I don't think she said it like that, but the power of our thoughts is huge. It's absolutely huge, because when we have a thought that comes first, we create a feeling for ourselves. So if I'm feeling discouraged, that's on me. That's not on anything else. It's not on another person. It's not on my kids. It's not on the situation. It's what I think about all of those things. I'm creating thoughts. And the great thing is we have free will, agency, whatever you want to call it, so we can work with this. It's like the best news ever. In fact, in our family, we are actually getting ready to go on a trip next week. And I will be gone for the whole week of Thanksgiving. I'm super excited. We booked this trip back in June, and I did all the legwork. And I was thrilled with the deal that I found for our family and one of our dearest family friends who's going to come with us. And now, as we are firming everything up, my friend called last week and she said, I was kind of looking over everything now, and you did not get the great deal that you think you got. In fact, I see way better deals. And so we talked for a while, and I got off that call and I looked at my husband. I said, well, clearly I failed us. And he looked at me and he's like, what are you talking about? So I told him the whole conversation, and he goes, that's not what I'm getting out of that. She said, maybe we didn't get as great of a deal. Maybe she's seeing better deals. He's like, I'm now wondering if we can save some money here. Now, isn't that fascinating? Two totally different thoughts. My thought, my interpretation of what she was saying put me into a spiral of negativity. But for my husband, Greg was like, I'm curious. Could we get a better deal? Now, who's right? Who's wrong? Doesn't matter, right? That's not what this is about. Yeah, but was your family friend trying to make, doesn't matter. It's what I took from it that matters. It's what he takes from it. So afterwards, he and I actually got into a really great, helpful conversation. And we both realized that what we heard, that was what you call circumstance or your situation. But the feelings that were stirred within ourselves was not created by our family friend. Our feelings were directly linked to the personal thoughts we each had about the circumstance. We would know that it was a true reflection of her if we had maybe the same exact thoughts. That rarely ever happens. And so it's not on her. It's on me. It's on him. And this is so powerful. So many people want to say, she made me feel lousy. My mom, my dad, my sister, my mother-in-law, these people make me feel a certain way, usually negative. When in fact, what I really want to do is empower you and help you realize you're the one making yourself feel lousy. You have a thought that's creating that feeling. And maybe you want to feel that way. You could. There are good reasons for feeling lousy. I will tell you that. I'm never going to say you should be happy all the time. It's not possible, and that would be weird. There are times we feel sad, discouraged, lousy, whatever. But rather than blaming someone else, we can take ownership, because our thoughts can be terrible, terrible traps, my friend. It is critically important that we master our minds to the best of our ability. So if you are someone who has a negative thought, especially one recently that's been circling that beautiful brain of yours, I want you to grab your journal. You could listen to this episode all the way through and then come back a little bit later on. You'll see we're at like the 9-10 minute mark right now. Come back here as I go through some helpful ways that you can take what I'm talking about today and apply it to your life. Do you want a better life? Do you want a more joyful life? I promise I can help you get there. You'll never have a perfect life. Nobody does. But I really think this could help. This episode just might turn your life around for the better. So I'm going to use as our example what this mom had said. Homeschooling is not fun. So that feels like a thought trap to me. And so we'll use that to kind of use as an example. But You can plug in any thought that you are having, but just one thought at a time. We have like 60,000 thoughts a day. Don't go off onto a tangent and be like, well, I also have this thought and I have this thought and I have this thought. We can only work with one thought at a time and then work this out for yourself. So one of the first things you're going to need to do is ask yourself why you believe your thought trap. So this example, homeschooling is not fun. My best guess is that this sweet mama, she was amazing. She's overwhelmed. Maybe it's lesson plans. Maybe it's laundry. Maybe she's behind in some of her curriculum. I don't know. We didn't get into a lot of details about why it wasn't fun. One thing she mentioned was that her son is behind where she feels he should be. So I think that probably is making her feel overwhelmed when she thinks homeschooling is not fun. That's coming from that feeling of overwhelmed. As well as she could be comparing herself to other homeschooling families. You know the ones, they seem to have it all together. That's the thing about Instagram. People put their best stuff forward. That's what they want to put forward. I love that. I can be inspired by that. But we all have to know that's just a moment in time. Nobody lives that all the time. She also could be stuck in frustration or in guilt for some reason. Something is draining her joy. And I would have her grab her journal, write down her thought trap, homeschooling is not fun, and then ask herself, why do you believe that? Where's your evidence? I guarantee she has it just like you do. Write down your evidence, okay? But remember, her struggle really isn't about that homeschool is not fun or even any of the evidence that she has. It's all a story that she's telling herself. Just keep that in mind. Okay, next in your journal, going vertically, I want you to write 5 letters. Write a C, give yourself some space to write a sentence or two. Write T, give yourself some space. F, A, R. Into each of those letters, you're going to leave a little space where you can write. So the C stands for circumstance. This is like your situation, what's happening right now. It could be her homeschool day. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it was her child's behavior, whatever circumstance it is. Now, it should be neutral. It shouldn't give you a feeling. If you're getting a feeling from it, it's a thought. Circumstance comes before thought. So you have to keep it very neutral. If you say the circumstance was I had a bad day, right there, as soon as you say I have a bad day, I have a feeling about that, that's a thought. Circumstance is at 9 a.m., I said we were going to complete 20 math problems before lunch. By lunchtime, we only got through 5. See how that's just a fact? That's neutral. So we're not making a judgment about it until we get to the T line. And your T line, the next letter down, is your thought. And they're very closely related, right? My friend, the circumstance was, she said, I don't think you got a great deal. That's a circumstance. Now, what do I think of her saying that? My thought was, I failed. I lost us money in some way, shape, or form. I had a thought about the circumstance. Be very careful with those two things. From the thought, I did have a feeling, just like this mom who is like, homeschool is not fun. I'm just going to say that example with math. So her thought is, we are so far behind in math now. That's her thought. How's she going to feel? Defeated, maybe even anxious, maybe resentful if it was like child behavior that kept her from like getting to stay on pace. I don't know, but you have to spend some time in metacognition. That's thinking about your thinking. From your thought, what feelings came up for you? These should be one word answers. It could just be one word, period. You may have a couple words. Like you could be like, yeah, I felt defeated and then I felt anxious. But remember, a feeling is just a one word answer. From our feelings, we act. So A is action. So go down your CTFA is action. What do you do when you are feeling those feels? Maybe now you are snapping at the kids. Maybe you're losing your patience. Maybe you start to cry. Maybe you throw the book on the ground. I don't know what actions happen. And don't forget, non-action is also an action. You say nothing and you go and open a bag of chocolate chips. Yeah, that's actually an action. It's a non-action, not dealing with the problem, but it's an action of overeating because you're trying to get rid of the feelings you don't like. Yeah, it's all tied together. Then R is the final letter. It stands for result. The thing is, our circumstances create thoughts in us. Our thoughts create feelings. Our feelings create actions. And from every action, we get a result. So what does she end up saying? No matter what happened there, she's like, homeschool is not fun. She has proof of her original thought. Now that is very interesting. I want you to notice what just happened there. This could happen in your journal. You may notice this. It happens all the time for me. You are familiar with self-fulfilling prophecy? Yes? Okay. So she started with homeschooling is not fun. That was her thought. And what was the result? Homeschool wasn't fun for her. Not that day. So there's more evidence that she's going to say, see, it's true. Again, I'd say, well, of course it's true because of the thought that you chose, which led to the feeling you had, which led to the action you did. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So awareness is key. It really is the first step. You have to become aware of what circumstances are creating what thoughts, what feelings are being created from your thoughts, how you're acting, and what results you're coming up with. Very, very important. This is such a good use of your time, I promise. I still do this. I think Brooke called it thought downloads. I've heard other people call it a brain dump. Whatever you want to call it, it's getting your thoughts on paper. To me, it's just metacognition. It's thinking about my thinking. Now, once you've done that, the next thing I really, really want you to do is to get out of your trap. Get out of your thought trap. So how do you do that? 3 things I would tell this mom. Number 1, I would recommend to this mom, if we were having this conversation, I'd say, hey, instead of saying it's not fun, I want you just to pick up some new words. Let's replace it's not fun with something neutral. Maybe you could say homeschooling has some moments that are harder than others. That actually feels far more true to me than it's not fun, because homeschool can be so fun. So to say it's not fun isn't true in my mind. It's also not always fun. So I kind of like this neutral space. Homeschooling moments are sometimes harder than others, something like that. What happens here is you're going to be able to release this resistance that you're like, but it's true, but it's true, but it's true. Okay, it's true. But let's release that resistance and let's make some space for curiosity. What would happen if I changed my thought just a little bit? The next thing I would have her do, and I want you to consider, would be to ask a couple questions like, so what would make homeschooling more enjoyable, more fun? If it's not fun, what would make it fun? Think of what would make it fun. If you laughed more, okay, how could you add in some humor? If you felt more lovingly connected to your kids, okay, how could we do that? Like, this is a brainstorm time. Get creative. Bring play back into your home. You could say, hey, you know what we're going to do today? We're actually going to take our books and we're going to do our independent reading at the park. I'm bringing a blanket. I've got snacks. We're going to read outside today or in the backyard. Maybe you just need to take more movement breaks. That works wonders. At least it did for me. I had all boys. But just consider what would make it more fun and make your list. And then finally, I would have her write in her journal, what is a new thought that you could also believe. I'm not trying to tell you not to believe what you want to believe, but you could choose a new thought, something more neutral, like we talked about. Homeschooling can be hard and so happy. I don't know. What could you believe? It has to be something that you're like, okay, that can be true sometimes. If you don't believe it, it's going to be really hard to change your thinking. Your brain's too smart for you. It'll be like, that's not true. So you've got to pick a thought that you're like, that does feel like it can be true. And I want you to explore like how that new thought creates a lighter emotion in you. What feeling is coming up now? Patience? Peacefulness? This is your homework. And yes, it is that simple. And I speak from experience. Now, it's not always easy. I will also tell you that, because do you know what you have to do? You have to face your thinking. You have to take a close look at your own brain. And sometimes you're going to have to fight old beliefs. Do you know what a belief is? A belief is just a thought that you have said for so long, it feels the truest of true. That's what a belief is. It doesn't mean it is. It's not about true or false. You can change anything. So again, I want to remind you, your life is going to be what you think your life is. It just is. So what you think on matters. And I have a verse written down, Philippians 4:8. You may be familiar with this verse that instructs us to think on good things. What is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. We're called to do that. And why? It feels good. It feels so much better than sitting in misery or negativity. So why not try on one new thought this week? Just see how it changes your life, your atmosphere, your environment. I want you to think of your brain kind of like the ideal, beautiful walk-in closet of your dreams. You can go and choose any item. You can try it on. There's things you've never even tried on. It's that big. But you're like, ooh, I love that color. Ooh, I love that style. I'm going to try it on. You're going to put it on. You're going to see how it fits, twirl around, and decide, do I want to wear it or replace it with something else? That's why I want you to think of your brain and your thoughts. The choice is always yours. If it's not fitting well, let it go. You can do that, because that, my friend, is the beauty of free will. So go have some fun. Right on. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and listening this week. Hey, if this was something that you found valuable, don't forget you want to subscribe or follow so that every time a new episode is dropped, you'll be the first to know. And hey, before you go, if you are looking to get some of this academic writing under your belt and outsourced so that it's one less thing freeing you up to enjoy more time with your family, hey, you're going to want to head over to writeonweb.com to see what kinds of resources and materials I have available for you. I will look forward to seeing you there, and I will look forward to seeing you here in our next episode. Right on.